Hi guys, thanks for joining me on this video. I'm still recovering from COVID, and you can probably tell from my voice. But here we are. I'm really keen to do this video. Um, so today I'm going to talk about healing. In the previous video that I did before this one, I spoke about healing as one of the reasons why I have been doing this content. Mainly because I want to contribute to some level of healing and recovery for those who are seeking it through this content, and in other ways I might be invited to do so. And I'd like to start by, thinking about the term healing. This term is so often used in our society today through social media, with when we're talking to each other, and things like that. And sometimes I wonder whether we think about what we mean when we ask each other about our own healing journeys, or what we're seeking when we start our own healing journey, whether we really understand the intensity of what it entails or what it's going to be about and all of that. I don't really think anyone does, because you don't know what's ahead. And also because obviously healing is a very personal experience. I can't be compared to others or even quantified by other people. It's an entirely inner experience, and only obviously the person who's experiencing it knows and understands where they're at, where they're going, what they're seeking, and things like that. So while putting together the content of this video, I have reflected on my own journey of healing, which I'm still on. And I have considered some of the studies that I've done, and obviously some of my practice in my own profession. And I've put together a number of things that I think are key to the process of healing. And yeah, this is what I would like to share with you today. So yeah, we'll go straight into it. Have a drink of water before we get into that. All right. So number one, I think for a person to start their own healing journey, they need to have a level of self-awareness and some self-knowledge and a bit of attention to their own physiological sense or gut feeling that something is not right and that something needs to change. I think a person needs to also have a level of capacity to understand and be able to think about or reflect on their own behaviors, emotions, reactions, responses, so that they're able to, I guess, think about some of the things that they're going to come across. And also, to a person needs to have a level of compassion for themselves and a level of empathy for people close to them to care enough to change. It can be difficult, I think, to start a healing journey, to start to heal without some of these awareness. But I don't think it's completely impossible for a person if they have support and people who, I guess, lovingly point out certain behavior, certain responses is not normal. And of course, finally, there needs to be willingness to change and willingness to engage with the process of healing. That I think is key to healing. Number two, I think a key thing for healing to happen is safety. Safety is key to any healing process. A common thing that occurs when people decide to start their own healing journey, from my observation, is that they start by creating their own sense of safety within themselves and within their environment or relationships. And this creation of sense of safety looks different, obviously, for each person based on their own individual circumstances. And some of the ways that I've seen people create a sense of safety for themselves when they start healing is they stay away from people, places, or spaces that they perceive to be emotionally or psychologically unsafe, and obviously physically unsafe. And, this is, I guess, the point where I speak about in trauma work, in trauma practice that I am in. Safety is highly seen as psychological as well as emotional, as I pointed out from the Australian child maltreatment study. There's a lot of data that shows that emotional abuse and psychological abuse has devastating effects on people's long-term physical and mental health. So that sense of emotional and psychological safety is key for any healing. Obviously, I've mentioned that to start, when people start their own healing journey, they create a sense of safety by staying away from people, spaces, and places they perceive to be unsafe. And I would like to explain this a little bit more. In trauma work, in trauma practice, we use these terms a lot. An individual perceive a threat to be real, perceive there to be danger, or perceive there's a sense of safety at a place, because each person's experience is subjective and is based on their own past experiences. So I'll give an example. For instance, myself as a person who has had my own past trauma experiences, sometimes I get triggered by certain behavior, by certain situations, or certain people because I may perceive them to be unsafe. Because the reason why I might perceive these to be unsafe is possibly because I have deep seated, implicit memories in my body that give me the sense that I might not be safe, but the next person may not perceive the situation or the person the same way I do. And this is what I mean when I say that people's experiences are subjective. And that's why it's more correct to say this is how this person perceives it. Doesn't mean it's real or there's physical danger, but that's the perception they have. I'd like to I guess, highlight this more with a comment that Steve Porges made. Porges has contributed largely to trauma research and is responsible for the theory we call polyvagal theory. Steve Porges said that when it comes to identifying safety from adaptive survival perspective, the wisdom resides in our body and in the structures of our nervous system that function outside the realm of our conscious awareness. So this basically explains how what I've said. For example, sometimes we might perceive something to based on our gut instinct that something is not safe or something's not right about something. So we get a gut feeling about a person or a situation, even though we have no physical evidence, for example, of the feeling that they're eliciting in our own physiological, I guess, based on the physiological response we're getting. So, and this is when we say that safety is a visceral experience. So you can be physically safe, but when that safety is not felt emotionally, psychologically within the body, if you don't feel safe, it's definitely very hard to be logically convinced that you are. If you don't feel safe in your body, in your brain, in all of it, it's hard for someone to logically convince you that you're safe. And full disclosure, this is basically the underlying theory behind my Safe to Thrive, where when I understood the power of safety, that when you feel safe, you thrive in the things that you do, and you thrive in a healthy way, and your motivations are rooted in empowerment. and in an empowered intention. And yeah, I think safety is key to our own healing, and it's key to a lot of us thriving. All right, that's number two. So, number three, another factor that I think is important for healing is being in relationship. So, most of us have probably heard that relationships are really important. Yes, they are. Relationships are key, very important to healing. Uh, Relationships help us regulate our bodies, our emotions. This is how we learn regulation, through co-regulation when we are children, when we haven't developed the physiological capacities to regulate ourselves. It's through relationships that of our caregivers that we learn how to regulate our own emotions and difficulties that we might have in our own bodies. So we need relational connections to survive as adults, as little kids. We've seen from a lot of literature that infants innately need a caregiver or a person to be close to be able to survive. We get our basic relational templates, obviously, from early relationships when we're little bubs. And when we don't get the safe and nurturing relational experiences growing up, our template can be a bit different to the ideal, but obviously there's still hope and opportunity to repair those relational templates that were not healthy as we go through life. Safe and nurturing relationships help us grow in confidence, both as children and also obviously as adults in our own relationships. And in particular, there is a powerful psychological protectiveness that comes from having a relationship or having relationships that hold us very deeply, having bonds with people that hold us even when we're not physically together. Strong and supportive bonds, relationships that we can come back to anytime, relationships that help put us together when we have been battered and hurt by the world, relationships that remind us of who we are and who and where we belong to. Those are key relationships that people really need to survive through the world. And these relationships can be through with our parents, it can be through with our siblings, it can be with our partners or in friendships as well. However, these relationships obviously need to be safe, because if they are not safe, as I have mentioned a lot in previous videos, they can be very detrimental to our health and our sense of identity. If they're abusive, if they're coercive, if they're violent, relationships need to be safe for them to meet our needs, our own health needs. So yeah, healing needs happens through these safe, attuned relationships that have capacity to hold space for us with unconditional regard, with openness, with affection, with attention, and without judgment. So I think that is a key part of, yeah, of healing. Another point, which is the last point I will make about some of the things I think are really important for healing and on our own healing journey, is I guess the ultimate goal of healing is the processing of the trauma that a person has experienced. This is basically the goal. And this often happens within the processing of trauma, happens within the context of a therapeutic relationship, can happen through the context of a therapeutic relationship. For example, in therapy, and facilitating recovery for trauma is a part of my job as a clinician in my own professional work. And I view this part of my job as basically a facilitator, a witness, a person who just is able to hold space for people to make sense of and process their past experiences, whether it's unconscious implicit memories of these experiences, and of course some of the physiological and emotional reactions and responses that they also experience on a day-to-day basis based on that trauma. So that's basically my job, day job. There are, I guess, therapy is one way you can do that. There are many ways to process trauma and obviously achieve healing that we are looking for. And talk therapy is one of those ways. Talk therapy is what I do, but talk therapy is one way you can process trauma, but it's not the only way. As I said at the start of the video, the healing journey is a deeply personal journey. While a counselor or a therapist or a clinician may be a part of that journey for a period of time in your own journey, or even never be a part of your journey, they are not the key to your healing. So if you don't have they're not the key. You are the key to your own healing journey. So it's up to you to be willing to change, to use the learning and the tools that you gather, whether it's in therapy or outside of therapy, to be able to heal yourself, to make changes in your own life, to stay connected to, and to be aware of the effect that daily experiences have on your body, on your mind, as you move through life. So you need to always understand that yes, there can be people helping you through the journey, but they are not the people who are going to help you heal. It's you who's going to help yourself heal. And yeah, that's it. I would like to wish you all the best in your own healing journey. And I would like to hear any comments or questions, or even what you understand your own healing or healing journey to be, and what your experiences are in this. Thank you again for listening. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again.